and the ancient lands between the Tigris and Euphrates, where hot winds swept endlessly across golden plains and the sun shone fiercely on every hill and valley, something extraordinary rose from the earth, something that seemed almost alive with human devotion and imagination. They were not palaces, nor were they fortresses, and they were certainly not simple homes or barns. They were towering structures, monumental stairways of stone and mud brick, reaching ever upward toward the sky as if humans dared to touch the very realm of the gods. These remarkable structures were called ziggurats, and each one stood proudly at the center of its city, like a mighty mountain planted in the middle of the bustling settlement, a testament to both faith and ingenuity. Every city, no matter how small or grand, had its own ziggurat, and each was devoted to a particular deity, a god whose influence was thought to stretch over fields, rivers, homes, and the very destiny of its people. At the first light of dawn, when the sun painted the highest platform in shades of gold and amber, many believed the gods themselves might be standing there, surveying the city below with silent attention, judging the devotion of their followers, and rewarding or punishing as they saw fit. Thus, the people built their ziggurats ever taller and stronger, hoping that the gods would feel invited enough to descend or to look favorably upon the city that honored them so diligently. The construction of a ziggurat was an immense endeavor, a feat of human organization and physical labor, with terraces stacked layer upon layer like enormous wedding cakes of baked clay, each brick carefully shaped and positioned under the relentless heat of the sun. Workers carried baskets of mud, clay, and straw up steep ramps, pouring sweat and energy into every step, while overseers directed each motion to ensure the divine favor was earned and no mistakes would offend the gods above. Priests oversaw every detail of construction, convinced that each brick, each layer, each decorative tile carried spiritual significance, a link in a chain that connected the mortal and divine worlds. They explained to the people that the ziggurat itself was a bridge, a ladder to heaven, a place where earth and sky could touch and where humans might speak to the powerful beings who governed their lives. As these sacred towers rose, they became far more than mere buildings. They became the beating heart of the city, symbols of collective devotion, pride, and ambition, central to both civic life and religious identity, commanding attention from near and far. People traveling across the plains could see these mighty structures from miles away, understanding immediately which city lay ahead and which god protected it. Atop each ziggurat was a temple, a small, often richly decorated shrine that gleamed with glazed bricks, shimmering blue tiles, or even golden accents that caught the sun and dazzled all who gazed upon it. Inside, the air smelled thick with incense and aromatic oils, twisting upward in thin ribbons that seemed to reach the heavens, carrying the prayers and offerings of countless faithful souls. Priests and priestesses tended sacred fires and ceremonial lamps that were kept burning day and night, believing that these lights guided the gods to the temple, welcomed them into the city, and ensured that blessings were poured upon the fields, homes, and rivers. They climbed the stairs carefully, sometimes carrying baskets of grain, honey, figs, and fragrant oils, and each step was performed with reverence and the knowledge that a misstep could displease the gods they served. The Mesopotamian gods were extraordinarily powerful, often capricious, and entirely intertwined with the rhythms of everyday life. There was Enlil, the god of wind and storms, whose breath could bring gentle rains or devastating floods that swallowed fields and homes. There was Inanna, goddess of love, war, and fierce storms of passion, honored with songs, offerings, and grand dances that filled the streets with color and movement. There was Enki, god of wisdom and water, believed to whisper secrets and guidance into the ears of the most attentive priests at twilight. And there was Marduk, the dragon-slaying god of Babylon, whose power and myth made him one of the most revered figures in Mesopotamia, a deity whose stories inspired kings and commoners alike. Each god had their own personality, preferences, and responsibilities, and the ziggurat dedicated to them became a living monument, a spiritual hub, and a bridge between humans and the divine that shaped the moral, cultural, and social life of every citizen. Every morning, priests climbed the steep staircases of the ziggurat to present offerings, bowing at each terrace as if acknowledging a new level of divine presence. They carried baskets overflowing with dates, figs, barley, honey, and fragrant oils, believing the gods consumed the essence and aroma of the offerings, even if the physical gifts remained intact. During festival days, the entire city transformed into a riot of color, sound, and motion. Musicians played drums, lyres, and flutes, while dancers twirled in vibrant robes, their movements echoing the myths of gods and humans entwined. Storytellers recited the ancient epic tales of divine battles, heroic deeds, and miraculous interventions, reminding every citizen of the sacred bonds connecting mortals and immortals. From the highest terrace, priests could see the city sprawling below like a living mosaic. Fields stretched like quilts, canals glimmered under the sunlight, marketplaces buzzed with merchants and customers, and distant mountains melted into the horizon. They observed the sky constantly, reading omens in cloud shapes, celestial movements, and shifting winds, interpreting the messages as guidance from the gods. They believed the gods communicated through nature itself. A sudden gust could signify caution, a bright moon a blessing, or a rare alignment of stars an urgent warning. Priests recorded these signs meticulously and shared interpretations with the people who relied on their guidance to plant crops, plan journeys, and prepare for festivals. The Ziggurats also offered practical protection. Their massive foundations safeguarded sacred objects, ritual items, and archives of clay tablets from seasonal floods. And in times of danger, the faithful gathered near the base, confident that the gods would guard the city from misfortune. At night, mysterious rituals filled the terraces. Priests and priestesses moved in slow, deliberate patterns, chanting sacred words, waving lamps and fragrant smoke through the air, while children and observers whispered stories of the divine presence visiting the city under starlight. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows along the steps, making the ziggurat seem alive with both human devotion and divine attention. People believed that the gods walked invisibly along the terraces after sunset, ensuring that all prayers and offerings were received. Children were told tales of divine footprints in the morning dew, though no one ever claimed to see them. Every step, every chant, and every ritual was part of an intricate dance linking humans to powers beyond their comprehension. Scribes documented these ceremonies on clay tablets, carving each line with care and precision. The tablets recorded festivals, omens, divine encounters, offerings, and even complaints or pleas to the gods. Some recounted kings seeking victory in battle, others described desperate rituals for rain during drought, and still others celebrated bountiful harvests with joyous songs and processions. The myths surrounding the ziggurats were deeply influential. Some told of a heavenly ziggurat built from starlight that existed before the earth itself, while others described the first humans created at the base of a divine staircase linking the worlds. Stories explained natural phenomena, human emotions, and moral lessons, weaving together religion, culture, and daily life into a coherent vision of the universe. Even as centuries passed, kings expanded ziggurats, adding layers, tiles, and decorations to impress the gods and leave a legacy for posterity. The grandest of all, the ziggurat of Babylon, Etemenanke, rose so high that it was said to inspire later tales of towers that reached the sky, tales remembered for millennia. Though empires crumbled and cities fell to dust and conquest, the ziggurats endured. Their foundations, brick by brick, stood through storms, floods, and the passage of time, whispering stories of devotion, faith, and human ambition. Modern archaeologists examine their remains and imagine the bustling cities that surrounded them. From broken terraces to scattered bricks, each discovery reveals how people worshipped, worked, and dreamed, maintaining a connection to the divine across centuries. Ziggurats were more than architecture, they were living symbols of a civilization's heart. They linked humans to gods, earth to sky, and past generations to those yet to come, creating continuity in belief, culture, and human imagination. Even today, their echoes persist in our understanding of faith, community, and the human desire to reach for something greater than ourselves. The stories, rituals, and bricks of Mesopotamia's ziggurats remind us that humanity has always sought to connect, to honor, and to dream. Beyond the ziggurats' massive terraces, the cities of Mesopotamia bustled with life, filled with markets, workshops, homes, and people devoted to the rhythm of their gods. The ziggurat towered over everything, reminding everyone of the power above, guiding the steps of kings and peasants alike, and silently demanding respect, devotion, and careful attention to ritual. Inside the temple at the summit, priests prepared daily ceremonies that had been practiced for generations, following precise routines, reciting prayers that were said to echo into the heavens, carrying each word upward like a gentle ladder of sound. They washed sacred figurines, poured oil over altars, and laid offerings of bread, honey, and wine, believing every action connected them to gods who shaped their world and ensured the survival of their people. The gods of Mesopotamia were intimately involved in every facet of human life, from the rising of the sun to the fertility of the fields. Enlil, the god of wind, brought either gentle breezes or devastating storms. Inanna, goddess of love and war, could bless or punish with unpredictable force. Enki, god of wisdom, offered guidance to those who sought knowledge. And Marduk, the mighty Babylonian deity, maintained order and harmony, battling chaos wherever it appeared. Each ziggurat became a sacred home for its deity, and the rituals performed there were considered essential to the city's survival. The priests and priestesses, carefully trained from childhood, carried the responsibility of maintaining these ceremonies, their every action scrutinized by both the community and the gods themselves. The sacred fires that burned day and night were believed to guide the gods, their smoke spiraling skyward like invisible staircases, connecting the human and divine realms. Children and visitors watched in awe as offerings were brought up the long ramps, imagining that the gods themselves might step down from the heavens to accept them. At night, under starlit skies, the ziggurats seemed to come alive. The flickering light of torches and the scent of incense filled the air, while chanting priests repeated sacred words passed down for generations. People whispered that the gods roamed the terraces invisibly, blessing those who had shown devotion and correcting those who had erred. Scribes recorded every ceremony on clay tablets, writing long descriptions of rituals, omens, offerings, and prayers. These tablets preserved the memory of each festival, each blessing, and each significant event, ensuring that the knowledge of Mesopotamian religion could endure even after the bricks crumbled and the city walls fell. One tablet describes a king seeking victory in war, detailing the steps he took to appease the gods, the offerings he made, and the prayers he recited as if to secure divine favor before battle. Another recounts the people's desperate pleas during a drought, the processions they made, the hymns sung, and the sacrifices offered, all in hopes of bringing rain to parched fields. Stories of divine intervention were common. In one, Inanna descends into the underworld and returns, teaching humans about bravery, consequence, and the cycles of life and death. In another, Marduk slays a chaotic sea serpent to bring order to the cosmos, a myth that explains both natural phenomena and human morality. The rituals performed on the terraces were meticulous, with every step, word, and gesture imbued with meaning. The smallest mistake could anger the gods, while the most careful offering could bring fortune, harvest, and protection to the city below. Priests often trained for years to perfect their ceremonies, practicing every movement until it became second nature. Festivals were magnificent. Musicians filled the air with drums, flutes, and lyres, dancers spun in colorful robes, and crowds cheered as priests paraded offerings to the temple. The entire city became a living expression of devotion, a temporary reflection of divine order on earth. Even the simplest ziggurats carried symbolic meaning. Each terrace represented a stage of human connection to the divine, reminding the people that every act of kindness, prayer, and devotion brought them closer to the gods. The tallest platforms offered a glimpse of the heavens, as if humans could almost reach out and touch the deities themselves. Kings often sought to leave their mark on these sacred monuments. They added additional terraces, decorated them with tiles and inscriptions, and sometimes built new shrines within the ziggurats to honor their favorite gods or commemorate victories. The most famous of these structures, the Enki of Babylon, rose above the city as a symbol of human ambition and divine connection. It inspired stories of towers reaching the heavens, tales that spread across lands and endured in human imagination for millennia. Even as time passed, the ziggurats endured storms, invasions, and the collapse of empires. Their massive foundations and carefully baked bricks withstood the passage of centuries, leaving fragments that tell archaeologists and historians stories of devotion, power, and community life. Archaeologists today study these ruins, imagining the bustling life that once surrounded the terraces, reconstructing the sounds of music, prayers, and laughter that echoed through Mesopotamia. They analyze broken bricks, scattered artifacts, and remnants of terraces, piecing together the life of people who lived thousands of years ago, whose every act was touched by both fear and reverence for the gods. The ziggurats were more than physical constructions. They were living symbols of civilization, the centers of culture, knowledge, and devotion. They connected humans to the divine, maintained social order, and created continuity between generations, passing wisdom, customs, and stories from one age to the next. Even when writing, astronomy, and governance evolved, the lessons of the ziggurats persisted. They taught the value of devotion, the importance of ritual, and the human desire to reach towards something greater than oneself. Every offering, every prayer, and every careful step up a terrace spoke of hope, faith, and the unbroken thread connecting past and future. The echoes of Mesopotamia's ziggurats still resonate in the present day. Their stories remind us that humans have always sought to understand the universe, to honor its mysteries, and to build bridges between the earth we walk on and the heavens we dream about. Through their ruins, the myths, and the preserved artifacts, the ancient world continues to speak, inviting us to look up, imagine, and wonder. Even now, when we visit the sites of these ancient stairways to heaven, the bricks whisper stories of devotion, courage, and the eternal human longing to reach beyond what we can see, beyond what we can touch, and toward the world of gods and dreams that has inspired people since the dawn of civilization.